Hi everybody, welcome back to the Off the Ball podcast. My name is Brandon. I'm joined with Ben, and today we're going to be talking about some NBA bubble stuff that happened this past week, before the new games start today. So let's just kick right into it. So firstly, we had I think the primetime game. What Ben and I discussed last NBA video, which was the Lakers and the Clippers, and we're not going to go through every single game. We're just going to bring up points from the few games, from some games. So I think a lot of people are bringing this up on Twitter and in general. A lot of sports columnists and writers are bringing this up, and a lot of sports analysts. The Lakers seem like they are in trouble because the Clippers were shorthanded. You know, they didn't have Montrez or Patrick Beverly.
Or Lou
No,
Williams.
not Patrick. They had Patrick Beverly. Or they didn't have or Montrez or Lou Williams, and they still
Fallen soldier.
yeah,
Fallen soldier Lou Williams.
and they still lost. The Clippers lost, but only by 2. Granted, you know the game was pretty much who can go on a run at that point, like at certain points during the game. I mean, it was a fairly close game overall. I think it's concerning for the Lakers just because they're missing they're missing a few guys, and the Lakers still seem like they had trouble against them, and I think it just goes down to the fact that the Clippers have a lot of switchability on their team. I mean, at one point they're playing Markieff Morris, I think that's the ones on the Clippers.
One of the Morrises.
Yeah, it's at center.
Yeah.
And I think they had to have Dwight Howard step out on him.
Yeah, it's... I mean, I think probably the more kind of a shock and awe game, it wasn't the Lakers-Clippers game, it was most of the Raptors game.
Right.
Where they didn't just lose, they got blown out.
Right.
So I think...
I mean, Lowry dropped like 33 against them.
Yeah.
But I think it just shows that they need that they're missing a Rondo or an Avery
Mario
Bradley.
Chalmers.
or an Avery Bradley to lock down their point guard, because I think honestly, like, those two are good defenders, and Kyle Lowry dropped 33 on them.
Yeah, and I think, you also have the idea that, I mean, the schedule isn't the easiest, but it isn't the hardest. So I think, personally, I don't know, I don't see them kind of, I could see them going farther just because they have LeBron, they have AD, but, do they win a 7-game series if they're gonna if the Clippers potentially have both Lou Will and Montrez back?
I don't know.
Possibly not.
Yeah.
I mean, then again, I was saying that before the bubble was that it was gonna be really difficult for the Lakers to go past the Clippers anyways, but I think personally it's gonna be really difficult for them now because they're not only shorthanded, they're gonna be up against the Clippers, who probably, and I'll say this, with a grain of salt, probably won't have anyone missing if they can get everyone back, which they're missing. Lou Williams made a point saying, what other team in the NBA history has 2 guys coming off the bench going 18?
Right. No, they have a significant impact, but I think I think that game showed that while they do have a significant impact, it's they also have depth on that bench. Like the Clippers are have an extremely deep bench, and the fact that they can bring off a Reggie Jackson, a Morris, when they come back, a Lou Williams and a Montrezl Harrell, they can. It's a very extremely deep bench, and it's scary if you're a Lakers fan, or if you're a Lakers just because while your bench is somewhat deep as well, it's not to the level of the Clippers, and the Clippers do have a lot of versatility on with them.
Yeah.
All right. So the next game I did want to talk about really quickly and to acknowledge is T.J. Warren dropping 53 on the 76ers.
Butler is one proud father.
Just wanted to acknowledge that real quick, just because it was probably one of a standout and highlight performances of the bubble so far. So
I could say probably the best performance of the bubble.
yeah, no, it has.
He drops 53 and says, "Oh wow, imagine being traded for cash considerations and
Right,
yeah, but
like-
you didn't do much at the Suns.
Right, but like it's also like he also had to carry a load because they're missing Sabonis and they're missing Brogdon. I think they were playing Oladipo, but
Yeah, I think Oladipo returned, which is going to be very interesting going into the playoffs. But yeah, I mean, good for him. I mean, he did well. They beat the 76ers, which can only help us. I'm not trying to sound biased here, but who wants to see the 76ers in the finals? No one.
So yeah, no, I mean, listen. It was a big night for him, and it was I think it's his career high on it for him. But I think he really Warren's he had 19 points in 8 minutes in the fourth, and really carried them through that final stretch.
Yeah.
So so big ups to TJ Warren. Next game we did want to talk about is the Heat versus Nuggets. And now we're gonna try to remove some of our bias and some of our opinions. But the Heat did look good.
Bol come outside.
But the Heat did look good last game. That game, and they play the Toronto Raptors today. But for them, it was very both their all-stars showed up. I think both had
we talk about
both had 20+ points. I know Kelly had
20 points in the fourth,
in
which
the
I
fourth
want to
quarter.
talk about a little bit.
Right. But again, it's also, you could bring up the fact that Miami also has one of the deeper benches too.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. The fact that you have someone like Kelly coming off the bench scoring 3 after 3 after 3. The fact that you have a Robinson, a Nunn, and after that a Dragic,
Robinson
Hero,
starts.
Iguodala. I know, but I'm saying
Right.
even after that, I mean even a Jay Crowder. Who expected that trade? Everyone thought that was just a piece thrown in, kind of like Solomon Hill. But, in reality, Miami had looked at him for trading for the past couple of years. So, it just goes to show not only the scouting that goes on in Miami, but the player development as well.
Right.
Because you have kind of, we joke around with the 76ers saying they don't have anyone past their 5, but Miami has 8, 9, 10 players that can come off and do a job for them. So I think it's also proven the fact that Coach Spo has done really well post Big 3 era. Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people give him enough credit. The fact that he still trying to maintain the squad, even though they've had losing seasons.
Yeah, I mean he was in purgatory for a couple years after.
Right.
Where he would have all these big contracts, and even then he had big contracts from middling players.
Right.
And made the playoffs a couple times.
Yeah. No. But I think it's also interesting the fact that Myers Leonard didn't play this game. And I think that was just interesting that the Heat went somewhat smaller and more space against the Nuggets. I mean, you think of their 3 centers. They have Jokic, who's 7 foot. They have Mason Plumlee, who's probably 7 foot, maybe 6'11", and you have Bol, who's 7'3". The Nuggets have size, but they opted to go with Kelly. I mean, who is 7 foot, but isn't as strong as Myers Leonard, or Bam, who's 6'10".
Yeah,
right?
Which I think Stephen A. talked about this when he said that Miami's the best foil against the Bucks. If you shoot well, you'll beat a team. You'll beat
Right, and
tall teams.
We're gonna get into the game against the Giannis versus Harden in a second.
Right.
Which is true. If you're going to shoot well, mathematically, you'll have one more point better than them.
Yeah, and you talk about a great defensive team. Bam Adebayo is. There's a reason why he's in talks. He's not going to win it, but there's a reason why he's in talks for Defensive Player of the Year.
Right. I mean, most improved probably. That's probably a lock in for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Most Defensive Player of the Year is maybe probably going to go to a Rudy Gobert again, just because he shut down the whole league.
Wait, no, no. We said Giannis in our prediction.
That's true. Giannis. But on the Nuggets side, obviously they were missing some key pieces. Jamal Murray, Gary Harris. So for them, it's they were missing a few pieces,
right. And I think they'll probably be okay, we can lose these games. We're already in the playoffs anyways.
Right. I mean, granted, I think they want to be a higher seed because they're they're close to the Clippers. So maybe having that 2 seed to help them out, because if they were 3, I believe if they were 3, right now they play the Thunder, but in that second, but if they are 2, they would play the Mavericks. I mean, if the playoffs ended right now, I know we still have 7 more seeding games to go through, but if you're the Nuggets, I think it's just probably one of those games where you just wash it. And just say, like, listen, they just shot better than us towards the end, and they just honestly pulled away towards the end. I mean, that second half, Miami just, like, took over.
No. Bubble Kelly took over. That man shot 20 points in the fourth for no reason.
Alright, that was fourth quarter. Alright, I'm talking about the whole half in general. But the second half for Miami really flipped the switch, and the Nuggets, I think they are missing Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
I think it was very apparent they were missing his scoring.
It could have been changed the other way if they had their full team.
Right, no, I mean, listen, this could have been a much closer game, but Miami did win by 20. So, let's move on to the next game, which is Portland versus
Celtics.
Portland versus Celtics, thank you. With that game, I think it's safe to say that a very big dynamic duo that I think no one was expecting to happen in Boston was Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone wasn't expecting them. They're both really good players, but I think it's most of the chemistry between them that really shows.
Right, but I think, honestly, I think a lot of people expected it to be Tatum and Kemba. Right. I don't think anyone expected it to be, still Kemba's killing it, but I'm saying, like...
Yeah, and I know what you mean.
Jaylen Brown is also emerged as this second scorer for to complement Jason Tatum. I mean, even me going into it, I thought that contract was just way too big for the amount of output that he's put out the past few seasons, but he's showing why he's deserved of that max contract. The Blazers did try to come back in this one.
I mean, they came back. They came back from a 22-point lead to lead with they led with a couple minutes left.
Right.
And then they went back and forth, and then Yusuf Nurkic went full Josh Allen and just yeeted it out of bounds past anyone.
Right.
Which, it's not surprising because when you're starting... the Blazers didn't seem really to have a chance in this game anyways, even though Paul Pierce looked stressed. Did you see those photos?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, personally, the Celtics are going to be one of the teams in the East. If it's not going to be, and if it's not going to be the Bucks, it's probably going to be it's probably going to be the next 3 after the Raptors, Celtics, or Heat. But
right. Yeah.
And I think they're really showing kind of their might, even though they did drop a 22-point lead.
Right. No, and I think it's just showing how well the Blazers are, how well the Blazers could be. Obviously Dame with 30 points, Nurkic coming back and getting 30 points. McCollum had 17. Carmelo didn't really shoot well, but he had.
But he did keep
13.
him in the game, though.
Right. Yeah, he did. On the Celtics side, Jason Tatum dropped 34, Jaylen Brown dropped 30, Hayward dropped 22, Kemba only dropped 14.
It's good to see Hayward getting 20 points though.
Right, but yeah. I'm just saying but back to what point I was making, this was those two, the Tatum and Brown, no one expected the level of output that they were having this season, because I think a lot of people had high hopes for Jason Tatum coming off a sophomore slump, but I don't think anyone expected him to do this well. Jaylen Brown, I think a lot of people thought Danny Ainge was crazy to give him that big contract. And I think a lot of people looked at Kemba as all right, he's going to be the star this season, and he's going to be a less toxic Kyrie Irving, right? So I think a lot of people looked at that and just was like, wow, this is going to be a new team. This is going to be Kemba's team for a little bit. But no, it's obviously Tatum's team, and I think the fact that you have Kemba Walker, being the third scoring option at times,
is surprising, because that was their main signing.
Right.
No offense to Enes Kanter, but that was their main signing this year.
Right. No, but I think it also just shows the amount of talent that the Celtics have. It is scary.
Yeah, they built a really good young team in the East.
Yeah, and they could definitely probably contend for sure. If it's not this year, probably moving forward. Next game we are going to talk about is the two MVPs going at it, or actually three MVPs going at it, is the Bucks versus the Rockets. Obviously, this game was a good game just to have just to see it play out. Ben, what did you make of this game? Do you think we alluded to the small ball lineup working over taller defenders? How do you see this? What's your thoughts on this game?
I kind of side with Stephen A. Smith when he talked about the way to beat Milwaukee. You have to have good shooting. You have to be able to space the floor and kind of wall off Giannis. But I think what they did was kind of they said, we can't control Giannis because we don't have the players for it. We can't really play off Middleton. Let's just cut everyone else off.
Right.
I think it's the idea that you cut the supply line. They'll get points, but they still won't. They still won't really impact the game as much. Even though at the end it was still really close.
If you just look at the score, the players who scored for the Bucks, it was Giannis with 36, Middleton with 27, Brook Lopez with 23, and then the rest never even hit double digits.
Right.
So obviously, what the Rockets did was they, what you said is, they cut everyone else off. And if you just look at the amount of players that Houston used compared to what the Bucks used, the Bucks tried to use their whole roster at some points, but Houston just played an eight-man rotation. But also the fact they're playing a team, they're playing, and their whole big thing is 3-ball, right?
Right, and also sorry to cut you off, but I think when you have when you're using this strategy that D'Antoni made, you have to also say, we need your two best players to match the production of their two best players. And who better to match production than Russell Westbrook and James Harden?
Right, because these guys have been some of the more efficient scorers in the NBA. Obviously, Westbrook with 31 points and James Harden with 24. Granted, I know a lot they're going to look like they shot poorly, but it's just because they're shooting a lot more than the Bucks are. They're taking more 3-pointers and they're taking more outside shots than the Bucks are. Granted, the flip side to what the Rockets are doing is if you have a hard off night, there goes your production, right?
Yeah.
So that's the flip side. We
the saw it against Miami when they just got blown out in the first two quarters.
Right. But they really weren't using that. They were using a small ball lineup, but they really haven't fully committed because they still have Clint Capella.
Right.
But no, I can see what you're saying. It's all. This also revolves around you have to shoot well in order to do well. So yeah, I think that was a big issue for for Milwaukee is trying to guard some of their guard that small ball lineup because it's at that point you probably have to play Giannis at center.
Yeah, which he's not a natural center, which is going to be difficult.
Right.
And you can't really contend with small ball if players like Bledsoe, DiVincenzo, and players like that don't step up their production.
Right. No, sorry to cut you off, but Bledsoe. I don't think Bledsoe is with them.
I'm just saying in general.
Right.
But like I said, I don't have their roster for the bubble in my head right now, but. I think in general you can't really, unless you're gonna go small like that, then you can't really do anything. You can't really do anything differently.
Right.
You have to make sure that everyone else is playing well because Giannis on any given night is gonna drop 30.
Right.
So you're gonna have to say, if Giannis is gonna drop 30, then we can just cut everyone off. And then Chris Middleton had a good game. I think he had 22 points. So again, you had him and Brook Lopez, who's always versatile, and they have no way of defending Lopez. So, fine. 3 players are going to get you to 80 or something points. Let everyone else beat us. And I think when you have the production of Russell Westbrook and you have the production of James Harden, even though they shoot poorly because they shoot a lot more shots, it's more of a testament to kind of, I don't know how to put it, but it's more of a testament to when Russell was that they're able to not carry a team, but they played an 8-man rotation that got a lot of them in double figures.
Right. No, and it's going. I think it's just gonna be interesting to see like how like each team moves forward, just because like the Bucks, their method is to out height the other team and to surround Giannis with shooters, right? But with the Rockets, it's more along the lines of just everyone's out on the perimeter, like fuck rebounds. Let's just start shooting threes, right?
And and we've seen and not to go with the small ball idea, but we've seen, when we talk about the production, we've seen that against Golden State they sucked shooting a couple years ago, and they were terrible at shooting, so they couldn't really, they had a lead and they couldn't really hold on to it because they missed 18 threes in a row or something like that. So D'Antoni's system really for the Rockets relies on shooting.
Yeah.
I know you're swapping Chris Paul with Russell Westbrook, but it's the same kind of idea.
Right. We're not really going to talk about any other games right now. We're just going to highlight some key points, some key factors that are going to be playing into the bubble.
Spurs don't die.
Yeah, no.
They don't go away. They're like a rash. Even though I love Pop. I think he's one of the best of all time. But they just don't go away.
I know, they're now the 9th seed. It's crazy. You and I talked about it. We were like, yeah, there's no way they're gonna be the 9th seed. It's gonna be the
It's probably gonna be the Pelicans. The Pelicans get blown out against the Clippers. So weird, man.
Well, that also brings up to my other point is the fact that they're not playing Giannis. They're not playing Zion as much. Just because, granted, it's still trying to get him in NBA ready and NBA fit, just because he is built like a semi truck. However, it honestly, and he's upset because he's not playing. I think it's just really because they want to make sure they're not getting another injury on him, because he missed majority of the season because of injury.
Yeah, and
he missed he missed time in college because of injury. He missed time in high school. He's had injury issues because of his size, and I think they want to just make sure hey, we're not overextending you and overusing you, but at certain points we are. But at some point when they feel comfortable that he's not going to have a major injury,
they'll start playing him again.
They'll start playing him at 30 minutes, right?
Yeah, and look, most of New Orleans' future relies on him.
Yeah, no, it really does. Granted, Brandon Ingram has done so well for them.
Second in improved player of the year, probably. But yeah,
right. Lonzo, starting to come into his own a little bit. Josh Hart has shown that he's been a good shooter. Jackson Hayes looks like a promising center. They have the pieces to surround Zion with. It's just, I think it really relies on if Zion stays healthy.
Yeah, and it kind of reminded me of, and I'm not comparing Zion to Jordan, but it reminded me of The Last Dance when they talked about Doug Collins couldn't play Michael Jordan over 25 minutes, that they'd have to sub him out immediately after 25 minutes.
I think it was 15.
Oh yeah, 15 or something like that.
It
was something really, really bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, it's injury concern, and you don't want your most valuable asset on that team to be injured. And Zion is, as much as a lot of people like to compare him to Charles Barkley, is someone entirely different that we haven't seen before. So I think, personally, and he's not Julius Randle with hops and his canter, but I think with him, you want to kind of make sure that he's going to be okay. You have to make sure that, I think he probably has to slim down, because he still looks big even after coming back. It didn't look like that was one of the things that that he focused on. He looked like he slimmed down a little bit, but he needs to probably to make sure that he doesn't put enough stress.
That frame of his needs to either decrease a little bit or make sure he's not putting that much stress on his body.
Yeah, I think that's the main kind of talking point.
Right.
Speaking really quickly of injury.
Jonathan Isaac.
Yeah.
Tore his ACL. It looks like the same way, but I'm not even talking about it. It looks the same way. How Derrick Rose kind of tore his ACL, planned to get really hard on a drive.
Even they jumped in the same direction. So.
Right. It looks really bad. So hopefully he gets better, gets well. Hopefully the surgery is
successful.
And hopefully we'll be able to see him on the court next season.
Yeah, I mean, he had a breakout year this year.
Right.
Woj was talking about it. He was a candidate for defensive, not defensive player of the year, but defensive first team and defensive second team.
Right. No, he definitely looked. He's one of those forwards that are starting to become like a big 3-and-D type of guy.
Yeah.
So.
He looked really good this year.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, he played for the Magic, but he looked incredibly well, especially for someone so young, and you hope for a speedy recovery with that, because no one's gonna root against him. Like no one roots against anyone with injury, and I think especially with this is your livelihood, you want to make sure that you're gonna be okay. So I hope that he comes back. I don't know if he's gonna have the same explosiveness, because we saw that with Derrick Rose, he wasn't able to kind of get to the rim and slash as much as.
Right, and Derrick Rose now kind of still relies on his jump shot a little bit more than driving, but yeah, no, for sure. It hopefully, I mean, he's still young enough that it couldn't be that big of a setback.
And especially, I'm sure that that ACL has been advanced the medical, they don't even have to. I was listening to something, they don't even have to scar you, they're talking about Dwayne Wade and how he had bad knees, and it was they don't even have to scar you. They go in and they take out the one little part. They've advanced extremely far. So I think with Jonathan Isaac, you hope that he's okay.
Yeah.
You hope that he can go back. You hope that he can go back playing, because he was a very exciting player to watch this year.
No, yeah, for sure he was. So to move on a more lighter note, really quickly, let's just talk about the games today. So we have Miami versus Toronto at 1:30. We have Nuggets versus Thunder. We have at 4. We have Pacers versus Wizards at 4. We have Grizzlies versus Pelicans at 6:30. We have San Antonio versus 76ers at 8. And the final game is Lakers and Jazz at 9. Really quickly, we're just going to run through some of our predictions. Raptors versus Heat. Who you got?
I'm going to say Heat. Miami's beat them twice.
Right.
They have the players to beat them. I mean...
No, yeah, and I think...
I mean, I don't know if you watched the last... I don't know if it was the last game of the game, or the first game that they played.
Yeah.
But it was they only scored... One team didn't... Neither team, I don't think, got to 100 points. So, Miami can beat them in many different ways. So I think... I think Miami have the players to beat them, especially with Bam. He even said... Bam came out even after dropping, I think, 22, and said, he had a really good game, and said he's not even fully fit yet. So imagine what he's gonna do. Especially he's defensive player of the year. He's a candidate for it, and he's gonna go up against Siakam. So I think
I think it's gonna be very interesting to see how they do, how they fare in the bubble now compared to in an arena, because Miami is 2-0 against them, so it's just gonna be very interesting. Next game, Nuggets and Thunder. I'm going to honestly say Nuggets going to have a bounce-back game here.
Yeah, I can see them losing just because, again, they don't have the guards, and they're playing against Chris Paul.
Right.
And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't know. Is he on the team?
Yeah.
Okay. For the bubble. But I think, it's probably going to be a bounce-back game. Again, I can see something happening there because of, they don't have the depth at point guard, or they don't have the depth at guard that they would usually have. But I think the Nuggets probably have a bounce-back game today.
Next game is Pacers and Wizards. I think it's just an easy one to decide. It's Pacers. I think, honestly, we can...
TJ Warren dropping 80.
Right, yeah. I think we can really see,
Yeah, but I think, the Pacers are probably going to be the team that wins here.
Right, the Wizards are without Wall and Beal. They don't... And David Bertans. They're missing pieces, So, honestly, I have Pacers here.
Yeah.
No question. Grizzlies and Pelicans. This is a big matchup, probably... to have many implications down the road, probably in the final days of the final games of these seeding games. Who do you got?
It comes down to Zion, but I think if Zion plays, and they're not going to play him a lot, but if, let's say, seeing what we've seen now, I'm going to go with Memphis. I think, New Orleans has, again, the better team on paper, but how many times can people say they have the better team on paper and lose?
Right.
So I think Memphis, probably just ekes this one out. They want to probably make sure that they would be okay, especially after losing against the Spurs.
Right now,
just won't die. So I think.
I know Memphis did lose their 2 seeding games so far against the Trailblazers and the Thunder. The Spurs. And the Pelicans, obviously, the only game they played is against the Jazz, and they were up against that game.
No, the
against the
Pelicans
Jazz.
also played against the Clippers and got blown out.
You're right.
I think they're also coming off a back-to-back, so it's going to be difficult for them, I think.
No, they're not coming off a back-to-back.
No? Oh, okay, so never mind.
I don't think any team's coming off a back-to-back in this schedule, Ben.
Miami's doing, not the correct team, but Miami's doing Monday and Tuesday. So, yeah. But, okay, I understand what you're saying. Like, it's going to be very...
Yeah. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be a little bit difficult for them. But, yeah, then they played against the Clippers. The Clippers, yes, they got blown out because obviously the Clippers are going to be the better team. But they did hold their own against the Jazz for the majority of the game, and then the Jazz obviously took over towards the second half. I'm gonna have to say Pelicans on this one. I just feel like the Pelicans could, if they play Zion more than 15 minutes a game, I think they could probably
I think
be as dominant as they were against the Jazz.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to that mostly. Again, I could see both teams winning this. I'm just gonna say Memphis because they are the higher seed. I think, they have the Rookie of the Year on their team. They have, Jared Jackson Jr. has looked really well, and they have a lot of good pieces on that team that could really just kind of push them just over the edge. I don't think it's gonna be that bad, but I don't think it's gonna be like a blowout. But I think it's gonna be close, and I think Memphis are gonna win it. But there's definitely some gray area there for New Orleans to win.
Spurs and 76ers. I think this is also a little bit of an easy one. I think it's going to be 76ers. Granted, Spurs do look really well. They do look really good. I know it's probably thrown up in the air because it's Popovich. He's trying to will his team to that 8 spot. But
you don't know what Pop will throw anything, and I think what I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to say 76ers as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if Spurs won this one.
I wouldn't be surprised if they kept it close.
No, I think. Again, 76ers haven't looked the best in the bubble. I don't know if they've, but yeah, and they haven't looked the best season really. So it depends. They can have an off night, and I think we've seen that with a lot of when they've played a lot of teams. So
right. So
I'm sure they probably want to come back after losing against the Pacers, which was a huge game in seeding wise. But I think I could see anything happening in this game, but I will say the 76ers will probably win this game.
Right, and the last game that we do have is Lakers and Jazz. I'm gonna go Lakers on this one. I think again it's a little bit of an obvious pick, but I think given the fact that again it's gonna be a bounce back game against the when they played against the Raptors. I think the Lakers are probably gonna still look like the dominant team. I think the Jazz, while they haven't really struggled to win games, but I think they have looked like they have struggled a little bit. They did lose against the Thunder. They got blown out by the Thunder, and they won against the Pelicans, but only by 2. So I'm expecting full dominance by the Lakers, and I think it's just easy.
I wouldn't say full dominance. I think if the Jazz probably they play through either they play through probably their 2 stars, they can keep it close. But yeah, I'm gonna say Lakers as well, just because defending wise, I think it'll probably create some problems. But I think personally, I think personally, Lakers are probably gonna come out with this one. They probably want to win after getting blown out against the Raptors, to kind of show that hey, we can beat our own conference. The Raptors are a different breed. But yeah, I think the Lakers are gonna win this one.
And I think that's pretty much what wraps up today's NBA bubble talk. Hope you guys did enjoy. Let us know in the comment section down below if we did forget anything. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and also in the comments, don't forget to interact with us and let us know your opinions on what we just discussed. See you guys in the next video. Have a good day. Take care.